What's up? My name is Karis. Welcome to Fix Your Shitty Movement. So my whole thing is empowering people through movement. And while strength training and exercise and all that is hugely important, and I'm also desperate to take it away from diet culture because it's so much more than just trying to get a nice ass. It's truly important for the quality of your life to work stress out of your body, to focus on yourself and on your body in a way that even if you have a very active job with lots of manual labor, it's not the same thing as dedicated exercise time to focus on yourself and how your body's feeling, which is why the first thing I ask everybody when they come in here is, how's your body feeling? Because most people are like, wait, I have a body? That's kind of the whole point. The empowerment piece comes from being able to advocate for yourself. And that means that you have a working knowledge of how your body feels a lot of the time, some of the habits, some of the places where you tend to get aches and pains, and also noticing when something new emerges, because your body's constantly changing, we're aging, we're evolving, we're decomposing. And the other thing I tell my clients is to approach your body with curiosity, never with expectation, to a certain extent, of course, but being married to this idea that it's supposed to perform a certain way all the time is really what gets people into a lot of trouble. And so while there is a big emphasis on technique and correctives and muscle activation in the way that I coach people, most of the time the lowest hanging fruit is things that you're doing that have nothing to do with those things. And so let's dive into that. First and foremost, programming. Way too much volume, 5-6 days a week, body split, so hammering the same area of your body multiple times a week, and not including enough rest, doing active recovery, hiking on your rest day, when hiking sucks and you fucking know it, and it's hard. It's not rest. A stroll around the neighborhood would be active recovery. But then just getting a wild hair and deciding that you want to test your squat max, and instead of adjusting your programming accordingly, you just pile on some correctives that you saw on some fucking video on Instagram and some accessories that kind of should complement a good squat, right? And then add weight to your squat. And it's a lot of fluff in your program that does not actually help you get to a better squat, because what you're lacking is a lot of specificity. And the other thing that I see is, especially people who have a background in CrossFit, is just so many reps, AMRAP sets and burnout. The thing is, you would not be able to do that many reps if at any point in your workout you had used an appropriate weight. Of course, it always depends on your goals, but my point is that nobody really has a goal other than they want to be really lean and really fast and really strong, and all of these things that are really in opposition to one another. Sure, if you're in a maintenance phase, you can have a little bit of everything in your program, but the problem is people want to have a little bit of everything and then pile on more things, and then say, my hips hurt the day after I squat, there must be something wrong with my squat. Granted, there's probably something wrong with your squat, but the low-hanging fruit, which, P.S., that's an expression in English that I was that has to mean something dirtier than it actually is. I'm ESL. The other thing, double fisting. I always have to double check with people, is this what, it's not a bad word? Okay, so anyway, the low-hanging fruit is that your programming sucks. And this happens a lot with guys. This is how they trained when they were college students and they were fucking off and they were really young and they didn't have much going on. And now they have a full-time job where they're sitting on their ass all the time, and they're really just trying to do that same program, but then, instead of my 3x12 squats, I'll do 5x5 and just do more weight. Dude, get a coach, get an actual coach who knows how to program. It's nice that you know how to program yourself, or that you read a program done by someone who takes a lot of fucking drugs. But if it ain't working, it ain't working. But that goes in line too with like not having enough structure. So randomly like, oh, I think I'm gonna test my 1 rep max at like the end of a set of squats. Dude, that's not your 1 rep max. I wouldn't tell people to do 1 rep max because it could be a lot better if you actually took the time to build up to a proper 1 rep max. Sure, you know, I get a wild hair too. It's why I like to train with guys because they kind of like push my limits a little bit. And I don't mean to stereotype so much between men and women, but men just have like a different experience in weight rooms than women do historically. And that doesn't really seem to be changing a ton. Another expression I have, I'm so full of them, is get it while it's hot. So, you know, if someone's having a really good day and they're not interested in competing or working towards a 1 rep max, I'm like, let's just kind of like push the limit a little bit and see where you're at. The thing is, that's not like, I'm gonna go for a 1 rep max today. It's more like we're just training and having a good day. And like I said, that's more of like maintenance training, just kind of like, you know, go with the flow, because a true 1 rep max is like running a marathon. It is extremely taxing on your body, on your nervous system, to just kind of throw it in at the end of a work day and go about your business with the rest of your workouts is stupid. And one of the main reasons why your body probably doesn't feel very good. And you know, people who are competing in powerlifting or whatever, or that's their main goal is just to like get stronger, they do the same thing. They have a lot of emphasis on squat, bench, and deadlift because specificity, but then they have all these fucking random accessories that are just taking away from where the priority needs to be. And so what it comes down to is periodization. People do not periodize their training, just like they don't periodize their diet. Those are very important things that you should take into account if you're already good about training regularly and you have some kind of working knowledge about how to eat. Again, people kind of follow the same diet that's always worked for them in the past, except it's not working for them right now. And just like with training, it's a lot of fluff. It's a lot of fluff. They usually eat too little of the things that matter and consume way too much on cheap weekends or days or whatever of shit that will downright work against your recovery, which is really where your focus should be, not on training, but on recovery, because recovery is what will determine the quality of your training and also the result that you get. There's lots of reasons why I have quite a few specialties and I have kind of an eclectic background. I mean, I'm ADD as fuck and I like variety, but I also have lots of options depending on where my goals are, what my life is like, the level of stress, you know, my physical wellness, all of that stuff, and also just what I want to do at that given time. Sometimes I want to work on squat, bench, and deadlift and really focus on getting stronger in those in the gym, whether I want to compete or not. Other times I just want to like do something with less structure that's like sweaty and quick and it's going to, you know, help with mobility, and that's why I have kettlebells, you know? And other times I'm feeling really stressed, or I really want to focus on breathing and connect with my body, and that's what Pilates is for. And generally I have some element of those 3 things in my training at all times, but if I'm just not in the mood to fuck with barbells, I have other options, and that means I can stay in shape year round. If I want to lose fat, if I have an event coming up or pictures or some dumb shit, you know, I periodize my diet to reflect that. And my training, I try to do things that will, you know, give me more volume and more muscle stimulation, and I adjust my diet accordingly. But I can't do that year round. I have to go into a maintenance phase. And then over the holidays, when everyone is, you know, you've got lots of social events with like shit food, and we all feel like fat pieces of shit, God bless it. Yeah, that's a great time to focus on like strength heavy workouts that focus on building muscle. It's built right in. But some people try to watch what they eat like over Christmas and stuff. Like, yeah, of course, you know, just don't be like balls out all the time. But you do have to take into account, like, is that even realistic? are you just wasting your time and energy when you should just do the best you can, have some vegetables, get into the gym and make sure that you're lifting so that those extra calories can go to good use, so that when it's January and you never want to look at a piece of chocolate again, you have something to show for it, because then you go into a fat loss phase and all of that hard-earned muscle is waiting for you. Your training needs to be the same way. You can't be like, well, I'm gonna win this marathon and get a deadlift world record in the same week. Like, if you can do that, you're probably on drugs, but you're also probably not like a regular person athlete, which I'm assuming is most of the people watching this. It's not how it works. Train for the marathon, do as well as you can, and then focus on something else. And that leads me to number 3, that people have way too many endeavors. They will be like, well, I do some like squats on Monday and then the Peloton on Tuesday, to just, after sitting at a desk all day long, just like really lock the hips up even more so I can do deadlifting the next day, and then the following day do some like crazy kettlebell conditioning circuit, and then go for a run, and then go to a yoga class and force my poor fucking body to be in these positions that it doesn't want to be because my body feels tight. Your body's not tight to be a dick. It doesn't just happen randomly. It's usually in an effort to stabilize your flimsy ass and prevent you from hurting your central nervous system, which is essential to your life. So if you're like, damn, my back is always tight, my psoas is always tight, my hamstrings are always tight, like, yeah, it's holding your rickety ass up. So if you're like, well, I dry hump a lacrosse ball and frat boy fuck with the fucking Theragun, and it feels so good in the moment, but then the next day I can't do shit, or I have to do that for like 45 minutes before I can squat normally, and then wouldn't you know it, I have to do it again the next day. Like, maybe your body is trying to tell you something that you should listen to, and it has nothing to do with your squat form. And in fact, your squat form is getting worse because your body keeps tightening around whatever is either at the heart of the issue or what is the symptom of the issue, which is exactly where we're going with the hip series that we're diving into. And one more thing I'll mention about that in terms of like programming is that you have to remember that genetics play a huge role in every single aspect of your physical fitness, your fitness ability, the absolute best that you can ever be, where you build muscle, how you build muscle, how you lose fat, the rate at which you lose fat, all of those things. Even if you take PEDs, you cannot, you see the guys who like walk around like a fucking refrigerator on top with little toothpicks. Yeah, their steroids aren't going to their calves. They could probably stand to do some squats and deadlifts, that'd probably help a lot more, but genetically, those motherfuckers aren't gonna build any calves. With that, certain muscles in your body have different thresholds for how much volume they can take, how much they can withstand. So for me, a really great example are my hamstrings. My hamstrings do not like to be isolated, they don't like to be singled out, and if I spend too much time on them with anything, even like recovery stuff, mobility, whatever, they get mad. So I generally have to leave them alone, and I have a good idea of what their threshold is. Also, they really alert me to when my form is off in like a hip hinge or something, but that's for another time. When I have pushed that boundary, because you guys, I really love a good drumstick on people. It's like way better than an ass. But if I hammer the living fuck out of my hamstrings, it's actually counterproductive because I'm at a certain point just breaking them down. The other thing I'm doing in that is I'm exhausting them so that when I come into, deadlift, they are smoked and they can't do a good job of helping me deadlift because they're kind of key to the program. Then all of a sudden, my back starts hurting and I think, there must be something wrong with my deadlift because my back hurts when I deadlift. You see what I'm getting at here? Like, there's so many different factors and things to consider that usually have a lot to do with things that we don't want to look at, things that we don't want to face. Which really brings me to my final point, and this especially goes for people, I understand, like me, who have a disordered relationship with exercise, because let's call it what it is. You're doing a ton of shit that's supposed to be making you healthy and feel better, and all it's doing is trashing your body. What the fuck does that sound like, right? Like, let's call it what it is. But sometimes what you have to do is leave it alone. You keep poking at it and dry humping and all this stuff with all these different therapies. All you're doing is actually adding stress to an area that's already pissed off and drawing your body's attention to it. When really what you need to consider is, what can I do? What does it want from me? What does it want from me? And I talk about the hips, and that's the first up in this series because they're really my favorite area to branch off into the big point, which is that it's not your hips. Hips are just a symptom of something that you're doing elsewhere in your body. People attack the hips because they feel tight and weak and pinchy and all this shit, but your hips don't act alone. It's important to think about your hips as either the bottom of your torso or the top of your legs. That's it. And this first part of the series, we're talking about the top portion. Second half will be, well, you already know what's gonna be the start, that one, but there's a lot of different factors to consider. And yes, there is a lot of overlap between those two things, but don't just program for yourself. Even if you're an experienced coach, the best of the best don't program for themselves. You do not have the objectivity to do that. And if you're doing a program that you've been doing for years, let it go. And if you're trying to get bigger, but also get lean at the same time, you're fucking high. Pick one, it's not gonna fucking happen. Or, I have a better idea. Train smarter and eat better. That means not getting fucking trashed every weekend. Again, that doesn't mean you can never drink again, but maybe periodize a time of like 8 to 12 weeks where you're not trying to have it all. Like, oh, but I want to enjoy like cheeseburger and fries and a fucking liter of beer. But okay, well, we all do, but you know, if you want abs, that's not how you fucking do it. And if you want to get bigger, doing like fucking 20 rep sets and shit that's not how it's done, bro. It's not how it's fucking done. And stop getting your programming from people who obviously take fucking PEDs. How can you tell? Well, anyone who's honest about having taken these things will tell you that what PEDs do more than anything else is they improve your work capacity. Like, you don't get sore. You don't need recovery like mortals do. And a pretty good indication that someone probably takes them is they'll say stuff like, they don't make that big of a difference. Then why do you take them? Yes, you actually have to work hard sometimes. There's a study, I'm not gonna talk about it right now, but basically the point was guys who take PEDs and don't train put on more muscle than guys who don't take PEDs and do train. Very recent study. I'm not gonna fucking put it because this isn't a peer-reviewed, you fucking Google it. But the point is, yes, absolutely, they do make a big difference. And not only that, are you getting these ideas and programs from people like me who eat, breathe, and shit this, and have to look hot on camera all the time? Why do you think that you're gonna be able to do like a 9 to 5 and then get off of work and do all this bullshit and then eat like shit and be able to have that same result and feel good? Like, use your head. The industry is fucking stupid, but at the same time, people just want to believe nonsense because they don't want to sacrifice things that are nice and fun. I know. We all do it, but you have to get real with yourself. So before you watch my Fix Your Shitty movement on like correctives and different things that you can add to help your hips, help them yourself. Advocate for yourself, get real with yourself, and find a coach who's not an idiot to program for you. Use your head. Does this person actually train in a way that makes sense to me and my lifestyle and my goals? Does this person take PEDs? What are they saying I'm gonna get from this program? That I'm gonna get shredded and build muscle and, you know, I don't know, grow like a 9-foot penis or something? Like, use your fucking head. Don't hire people who don't know what the fuck they're doing. Having a good body does not mean they know what they're doing. Use your head. You're the consumer. But if you've been doing this for a while, long enough to be watching this shit, take some responsibility and advocate for yourself. Let's talk about the hips.